Keep that applause going, everyone. It's an incredible film, and before we begin, I hope you will start and follow at Food Tank so you can share the photos and some of the comments you've been, seeing this, throughout the film, and also use the hashtag Food2050. So I now have a chance to sit down with some of the most incredible people on earth, some of the inspiring leaders who are featured, and some of the folks behind the film. So let me introduce them quickly. We have Jian, the president of the Good Food Fund. Round of applause. My good friend Sara Farley, who's the vice president of the Global Food Portfolio at the Rockefeller Foundation. The visionary Matthew Thompson, who is the director of Food2050. And David Osogo, who I had dinner with last night, who is a research officer with the African Population Health Research Center. Round of applause. So, Matthew, I'm going to start with you because you were filming this at really difficult circumstances. And I want you to talk about how it wasn't easy, but how it was so important to you to do this.
Yeah, so the bulk of the filming for this actually happened right when COVID started. It was in 2019. So you notice some scenes where we have face masks on. And so these 10 visionaries were across 5 different continents. And we were told to go travel the world when the world shut down. So it was a very difficult ask, and it required a lot of miracles to happen along the way. But the way we looked at it, and Tom at Media Red, Andrew, Guoguo, all of us, was that the type of care and discipline and compassion and responsibility that the visionaries had towards these communities of theirs was what we could offer towards a film, and going and being on the ground with them and seeing their hands in the soil and actually understanding what it meant in their local communities we thought was vital. So there was a version of this where it could have just been getting their visions with some photos and voices, and then there was a version to say, what if we actually went there and saw the entire journey? And so it started as 10 short films that were 10 individual journeys of these visions of the future. And at a time during COVID when the world looked extremely bleak, it was kind of incredible to start thinking of an optimistic view of the future and to be around people who spent their lives seeing that the world could actually be a desirable place. So it was a big paradox. It was a time when the world shut down, but it was people who had hearts and minds of how to reopen our world in a way that we never envisioned before. So it was very beautiful.
Yeah, it was very beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, give him a round of applause. I'm glad that you mentioned the word miracles, because I think there were so many miracles that had to take place to get this film off the ground. And Sara, if I can turn to you, and if you can talk about why it was so important to you and the Rockefeller Foundation to tell the story of these visionaries through film.
Well, in 2019, when I started at the Rockefeller Foundation, the incredible visionary Roy Steiner, who hired me, said, you're coming into a sector that has a listening problem. Philanthropy often thinks it knows what to do and puts money behind it. Let's do some radical listening. And wouldn't it be cool if we tried to incentivize inviting anyone anywhere to put forward their vision of what a just, equitable, regenerative, and nourishing future could be? So we actually created something that had never been done before, which was a prize for visions. So we had a $2 million prize, and we launched it in, February 2021. It's great timing. COVID outbreak, March. So we thought, okay, there goes that idea. No one is going to do this. No one has the space in their lives to write a tome asking, what is the technology, the policy, the culture, the economics, the dietary shifts of the year 2050 for your people, for your place? We were so wrong. Actually, over 4,000 organizations from 119 countries put together these visions. So actually, the visionaries on this stage with me and the top 10 that Matt and the team went around the world to experience were just a few of these extraordinary groups who, despite the odds, despite the economics, are putting themselves in a place of hope. And so, to your question, Danny, why did we want to do a film? We actually in no way set out to do a film. We set out to hear and listen. What is the future and how can we be of service to it? And along the way, made our way to Media Red, who said, you know, you're not going to change hearts and minds or let anybody understand the potency of these change makers if you don't bring it to film. So a little arm twisting, a little creative leadership from folks in the film industry telling us what we really had here merited a film, and here we are.
That's amazing. Thank you. And listening is such a lost art, so to be able to do that effectively, I think it is so important. So Jian and David, if I can turn to you, I'd love to hear a little bit, we saw in the film where these projects were about 6 years ago, but Mama's Kitchen and Nairobi, A Place of Cool Waters, have evolved tremendously. So David, I'm hoping I can start with you and just share a little bit about how things have evolved since the film was made.
Yeah, thank you so much, and allow me to bring greetings from Nairobi, Kenya.
Woo.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I resonate a lot with the first speaker who was here in the initial panel about the power of storytelling. And one of the things we've noticed in Nairobi is that when you tell your stories, you reimagine it. When you tell your stories, you get different perspectives of what you usually do. And so as much as we had been working on a transformation of the food systems in the cities in Kenya for a while, the opportunity to re-envision, the opportunity to tell our story through this competition and ultimately through this film rejuvenated us. It gave us better perspectives. It helped us, just relook at what we are doing again. But one of the things this has done to us is we've been able to reshape the way we think about transforming our food systems, but we've also been able to gain better partnerships, both within the private sector, the communities, but also the government. As Sara is saying, through storytelling, then even people who are traditionally not very good listeners, like our governments, I'm not sure about here in the United States. But in Africa, sometimes governments are not very listening. But through the journey of this story, we have had doors open to us. And as I speak to you today, 3-4 years down the line, the journey to transform Nairobi to what it used to be, as you've seen, a place of cool waters, a place where people live together in harmony, in the spirit of sharing, the spirit of Ubuntu, where people are able to nourish themselves and feed themselves. The journey is on through collaboration by all the stakeholders we need. And so, yes, this was a dream come true for us.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Jian, how have things evolved for you since the film?
Yeah, hi everyone, thanks for coming. I think Sara and Roy are the true visionaries. You have this surprise and tremendously helpful for our project because, increase our visibilities and also a confirmation of, to see that so many people around the world working on this. And we consider ourselves incredibly lucky, right? 4,000 projects applying. I know many other projects are as equally brilliant, but just didn't have the opportunity. Two stories connect to what you said earlier. Matthew, was China the only place that you didn't go? Yeah, because China had this lockdown.
Yeah, we couldn't get in to China.
All these lockdown.
But I was over computer with you in the fields. They brought the computer out, and we remote did that one.
So we were the only one that was filmed by a local, So
Canada, actually.
all the quarantines and everything. And for the prize, I remember very vividly, in January 2020, my family and I, my wife, and our 7-year-old, we packed for 2 weeks in vacation in Nepal. And at the end of the 2 weeks, COVID broke out in China. And we ended up staying in Nepal for 7 months. Wouldn't have been better. So I remember, the reason I mention this is that I wrote this project proposal with my colleagues in China for like 2 months across the Himalayas. Things changed a lot since the prize. So the reason we are having the Mama's Kitchen, well, number one is China is a very consequential country. If you look at the size of the population, the size of the economy, and second, it takes very simple math to see this wouldn't work, right? This factory farming, these billions of animals confined in factory farming, this wouldn't work. It takes very simple math. Number three is that to change all this, we have to redefine the role of the kitchen. We have to reimagine what kitchen can do for our life. A very, very small anecdote. 20 years ago when I bought my apartment in Beijing, the agent gave me 10 options. And I looked at one, I said, that's the one. You know why? Because that one has the smallest kitchen, has a tiny kitchen. I said, I wouldn't need a kitchen. You know, if you can take out the kitchen, I'd love to spend the same amount of money to have a large living room instead of a kitchen. But now, if I buy an apartment, I will buy one with the largest kitchen. So to answer your question, number one, on the macro level, we have been able to connect to China's policy on the climate. China has made a big commitment to climate. So for us, it's a good thing that we can be able to connect to government. And number two, during COVID, a lot of people start to cook. And that really is helpful because they start to connect to the kitchen, and then we can help them to ask the right questions. What can we do with our kitchen, and how do we? So kitchen is where the nature meets the culture, right? So what do we do with our kitchen, and how we develop our ownership of the kitchen, not just the kitchen, but what comes before the kitchen, what comes after the kitchen. How can we have an ownership? How can we develop an agency?
That's great. Thank you so much. Sarah, I want to come back to you. I would love for everyone to know how the Rockefeller Foundation is continuing to support these visionaries, because there's no one-offs with you. And I want to know, how you continue to support them.
Well, the first thing we did with all these visions, the data dump that this tells us about the aspirations of humanity is pretty unparalleled. So we actually hired a team of data scientists to look at all the data. As I said, the actual visions that were submitted were, in the first round, about 50 pages of analysis. In the second round, another 50 or so, right? So do the math over all the visionaries. This is a massive amount of data. So we looked at it all together, and actually 5 themes emerged. And those themes then became the bedrock of how we've structured our strategy and how we're looking at the next 5 years beyond. So themes that came out, and you heard them from Jian at the top. You heard Jian Yi's voice and the Sichanggu, Matt, and others speaking about food as medicine. Humans want to cure metabolic disease, not through pharmaceuticals, but through the way they eat. But the economics are making that really, really hard. Access is making that really, really hard. So we want food as medicine. We have now launched a $100 million food as medicine program. The American Heart Association is our key partner. We're putting forward the largest amount of clinical trials on what exactly is the dosage of food as medicine for different diseases. The second theme that came out is food as regeneration. And so we just got through our board last March a 5-year big bet on the union of 2 ideas. This transition to regenerative agriculture, and you heard Jessica Fanzo in the film, and Rupa Maria, and Mr. Hogg, and others talking about regenerative ag is where we're sequestering carbon, we're building back biodiversity, we're working much more consciously with water, and we're really focused on the well-being of farmers, which shouldn't be incidental. We're linking that to public procurement so we can focus on the most vulnerable consumer, which is our school child. So we're pulling all that together into a regenerative school meals big bet. I'm now co-CEO of that, and that's $100 million. And just last week in Germany, we stood up a global school meals accelerator with another $100 million, including partners like Germany and Novo Nordisk Foundation. So this is where we're going, and it's because of where you told us we need to go, and we're doing all we can to bring other funders with us. And I hope through the film and the impact campaign that follows, we can democratize this conversation further. And I think so many of you in the film industry really know how to do that better than anyone.
Absolutely. Matthew, it would have been easy for Rockefeller and for Media Red to do a very dystopian vision of the future of food. It's harder to do that hopeful vision in so many ways. Can you talk just briefly about that?
Our job was to, like you said, Sarah, listen. Our job was to kind of go and really build a bridge between our view of the world and a view of the world that completely widened our view as filmmakers. So it was really the visionaries that had this optimistic view of the future, and our job was to just sort of respond to that with the craft of filmmaking in like. So our composer, Fabrizio Mancinelli, and the music in there was extremely hopeful and did a wonderful job of that. And the cinematographer in the back there, Will Rouse, and the sound mixer, Frankie. And every part of this was us trying to just bring the tools of filmmaking, the same beauty, optimism, and excitement of the future as the visions of the visionaries had. I think that there was a spiritual relationship that we found out and we started recognizing when we were out there, which was the spirit of Ubuntu, the spirit of Wichozani, which was in the Rosebud, which was this idea that eating is the most intimate relationship we have with planet Earth, and that these cultures that started looking at food and as an opportunity to say that there's a sacred moment happening here, when that spiritual connection became part of all of our hearts, it just became almost second nature that this view of the future could be as beautiful when you take in mind that the spirit that goes into all these projects is something that sees the world as a beautiful thing. Like planet Earth is a beautiful, harmonious, wonderful thing, and an intact food system is everything works perfectly well, and we saw it on these farms. So I think as humans, our job is to kind of play our part in this planet and do what we can to be as optimistic and work as well and as beautifully as these farms and the food does.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's great. The wonderful production team in the back, can you add one more minute for me? Because I want to end with David and Jian giving sort of a call to action to this audience, because they've seen the hope that is evident in this movie. What do you want them to do with this information?
I think from Nairobi, I'll talk about two brief things. One really is to continue the conversations, because the world needs to hear this. So in your small forums, in your small areas of influence, let's tell the stories. Let's keep this conversation going. But other than that, because we're in the journey of implementing a lot of ideas and innovations towards achieving this Vision 2030, we call upon everybody to collaborate with us in your own small way. If you're a funder, you're a partner, whatever role you can play to support us in doing this, we call upon all of you to join us in this journey towards transforming not only Nairobi, Africa, and the entire world to a nourishing place by the year 2050.
Perfect, thank you. Jian.
Yeah, my message would be somewhat a little bit different than our project, is that I hope, we're talking about the future, but I hope people can remember the history. How many people today are talking about the COVID, about the pandemic? It's like we experienced so much, right? Like how many remember, or how many even talk about it anymore? Which people do we remember what happened in 1930s? So I hope, to really go to the future, we have to remember what happened in history and really take actions. We are smarter than that. We know we are smarter than we are now. So we should take actions and do something.
We can't forget. That's a great point to end on. Before I let you give a round of applause, I neglected to thank one of the really instrumental people at Media Red, Kylan George, who I adore. So please give her a round of applause.
Yeah, Kayla.
And then a big round of applause for Jian, Sara, Matthew, and David. Thank you so much.